Dakota.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
We're getting drinks, so give us a minute.
We're being
We got the
situated.
usuals. We got bourbon, scotch, whiskey.
What are you guys drinking tonight?
We have dipped in folly.
We have dipped and follow.
Unless you want dipped in folly.
No, I won't take that from you, my friends. Bourbon's fine. For those of you who are here, Dipped in Folly is from their friends at Richbrow and possibly one of the best and most intoxicating beers I've ever had.
It's thick.
It's
thicker than Guinness.
3 C's thick.
It's gonna knock me on my bum. Just saying.
I had
and
one.
It smells like molasses.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds.
Woo.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Blog Talk Radio.
Alright, hello everybody in Facebook land and Blog Talk Radio land. We are live. We have a Vincent who is very upset that he cannot be on the table.
Aw.
Come here, buddy.
Come here. Hey, gorgeous.
Say hi to everybody. Say hi, Vincent.
He is just active today.
Barely on the screen there.
So
We've been in a mood lately. I think it's the full moon mood.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, we'll get my co-host in here.
What am I drinking?
there you go. You are drinking Kentucky Sun Bourbon from St. Lawrence Spirits.
Oh,
So
fascinating.
This is up by Clayton, where we go in the summer.
Yeah. In Clayton, New York.
Looks delicious.
Sir, you do not get dipped in folly.
Actually, I think I do.
No,
I
you
was told I'm a full-grown boy.
do not get dipped in folly. I'm sorry, sir. You are still a youngin'. Alright, so
You put it
tonight,
somewhere?
You can put it down next to you over there.
There we go.
somewhere where you don't get it.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. Alright, so things
There's
that we've been
people.
doing.
Good people.
Yeah. So Chris and I were at Bacon's Castle this past weekend for an investigation with CPRI, which was phenomenal.
I've been meaning to ask about that. Did they do the microphone thing they were mentioning?
Yes, they did.
How did that go?
Well,
We don't know the full outcome because they're analyzing everything through their algorithm.
But we'll know by the 25th.
Hopefully. But while we were there and just listening to everything, we heard knocks, we heard metal clanking, we heard swishing of hoop skirts, we heard whispering and singing.
Yeah, all kinds of weird sounds
Yeah.
that just couldn't explain.
And it was funny because it's like it would die down and then we would go out and do a lap around to see if we could stir things up.
Mhm.
And then it got busy again, like it wanted interaction.
Gosh.
But then we would leave again and it would slowly die down again and then we would send people out again. So yeah, it was very interesting. I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a great experience. CPRI, they're great people. The folks at Bacon's Castle, great people.
Yeah,
So.
in fact their next ghost tour at Bacon Castle is the 11th. So if you've never gone on one, definitely go and check it out.
I'm out of town.
But she's got some in March and April coming up too. So
Okay.
I don't know the exact dates because I've not checked them out.
Okay.
They do them on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah. But yeah, really cool place to go and see during the day. Cool place you can go do a ghost walk with their docent at night.
Yeah.
Sarah. So
Yeah, but yeah, let's see. Other than that,
just been running our tours and we just announced we have our first haunted dinner
oh yes,
on the 18th.
haunted dinner, February 18th. So
And guess what it's
let's-
about? Executive Mansions.
Yes. So this is a little teaser. It's not going to be exactly the same. Gotta get a little. We got
a lot of Executive Mansions.
lot
There's a
of
part 3 that is not finished yet, just so you guys know.
So, there's going to be and there's this is a little teaser for the haunted dinner, there's only going to be a very limited amount of overlap because we got so much stuff to share. So, looking forward to that very, very much.
Very much. And of course we got our haunted John Marshall tour for this month.
On the 25th.
Yeah.
Yep, the Saturday after that.
So
We're also offering campus the
Creepy
Yes.
Tales on
Creepy
Campus.
Tales on Campus again.
Yep, so that Creepy Tales on Campus is on the 24th, right?
I'm gonna be a busy boy.
So yeah, we got a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Beth and I I, we have been out and about for 3 weekends in a row now, and
We're looking forward to a weekend where it's just our tours.
which is
this coming weekend.
Yeah, this weekend we got what do we got this weekend?
I don't know.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but we have tours this weekend, Friday and Saturday night. There's still tickets available, so please, by all means, come on out and join us.
Capitol Hill's one of them.
But
Capitol Hill is a thing. It's happening sometime this month for sure.
Yeah.
But
I want to say it this weekend, but anyway.
it's on our website, so
Yeah, everything's live on our website. All right, so let's dive into this, shall we?
sure, why not?
Okay, so aside from being, of course, legislative hotspots, the mansions of the political elite often seem to be magnets for those who have passed beyond the mortal realm. Whether they are drawn to our opulent surroundings or if they can seem to relinquish the reins of political power, there are still many spirits who linger around these homes long after they've passed away. So some of the stories we're going to tell you in these two episodes are older governor mansions that are no longer in use, but are museums now. And other ones are actually the actual governor's mansion that's still in use.
There is one where the governor's mansion is gone.
Yeah.
But that'll be the last one for this evening. So just a little foreshadowing. This is not not all of them are places that you can necessarily visit, but it is what it is. They're great stories still.
Yes. This was a fun dive for me.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start in Bismarck, North Dakota. This is an often overlooked state when it comes to historical discussions. The stretch of land along the northern border of the United States, it's a fascinating, has a fascinating list of historical sites. From private homes to military bases and villages to natural wonders, there's so much to explore beyond those who love to look back through the historic record. One of these places can be visited, and it's an incredibly unique mansion that stands out for the remarkable appearance alone. Adding to the fact that it is the one-time home of the governor of North Dakota makes it that much more interesting. It's located in the capital city of Bismarck. This mansion is surely going to catch your eye if you pass by it. The first thing that people will notice about it is the unusual coloring. A combination of shades of green that isn't what you usually see on today's houses, but this place has a history that sets it apart from those residences. The grand 2.5-story mansion was originally built in 1884 for a fast-moving entrepreneur, Asa Fisher, who had an interesting work history. He was a wholesale liquor dealer, a registrar at the Bismarck Land Office, and president of the First National Bank. 5 years after moving into the house, North Dakota became the Union's 39th state in 1889, and 4 years after that, in 1893, Asa Fisher sold the mansion to the relatively new state for $5,000, which was a tremendous amount of money at that point in time. The Fisher Mansion became the official residence of the governor of North Dakota. Watch it.
What are you doing?
He's thinking about leaping.
Sleeping?
Now, 20 governors and their families have lived in this mansion. Of course, the style and the decor inside of the mansion changed based on the taste of the family that was living there. In 1960, a new governor's mansion was built, and they moved out of this mansion. From 1960 to 1975, it was used as offices for the state health department. And in 1975, the Historical Society of North Dakota was given the house with hopes that it would then operate as a historic house museum. It was a long and frustrating process to restore this grand mansion. Wallpaper was custom made from studying the many layers of wallpaper that was carefully removed from the walls. Furniture collected and bought and donated, exhibits were established to teach people about the painstaking process of restoration. And along with this house, the historic site has also got the original carriage house for the governor, a bright yellow and red structure that stands apart from the house, and it's clearly part of the estate. Between the architectural details and the eye-catching colors, this iconic Bismarck home just draws you in. And that's part of the reason why the home is believed to house a number of spirits. It's a place that drew them in and never let them go. In 1898, the then governor of North Dakota, Frank Briggs, died of tuberculosis in the master bedroom of the house. According to legend, his spirit has never left. Visitors to the mansion and people who work there today have heard footsteps, seen doors open and close on their own, curtains moving with no wind, feeling a tap on their shoulder with no one there have all been reported. Jonathan Campbell, who was a longtime employee at the mansion, shared his own creepy experience. He said, "In the upstairs in the servants' quarters, I was there and I changed out the 100-year-old lights that were hanging on wires from the ceiling. And after I placed them with some modern pull chains, I was there cleaning up my mess with a vacuum, and as I was doing that, the hair on my arm stood up. I just got this chill and I had to leave the room. I went out to the hallway, I called my wife, and she's like, yeah, whatever. As I was talking to her on the phone, my phone suddenly died. The battery from his phone was suddenly drained, and what may have been a different kind of energy in the room. As for the new fixture, Campbell recalled, for years we could not keep that light working. The pull chain would keep seizing up, I would replace the whole fixture, and it would do it again. Perhaps somebody was displeased with the modern nature of the fixture. It was in that space that Governor Biggs reportedly collapsed from his tuberculosis symptoms, and he worsened. The governor may be disapproving of the removal of the light when it was that was there when he was in need. Excuse me, that was odd. With that said, reservations in general tend to be recognized as a trigger for paranormal activity. The theory is that spirits who have grown accustomed to their surroundings basically don't appreciate it when you change their environment. So they can show their disapproval in a number of ways. One is a dramatic and clear signals that we would see as sabotage or outright destruction of a newly installed fixture or furniture. It also makes sense when you think about it. How would you feel if the home that you loved is suddenly upended by a stranger? Now, regarding the North Dakota's governor's mansion in particular, the issues with the renovations and the paranormal are reported go back over a century. In 1907, Governor Burke renovated the considerable ballroom attic space in the mansion. Part of it became a playroom for the Burke children, and the rest of the space became an apartment for their butler and cook, Tom Lee. It's possible that this is when the entity of Governor Briggs became active, because this is when Tom Lee started to sleep on the second floor porch in a hammock when the Burke family wasn't home. He insisted that the mansion was haunted by Governor Briggs and refused to sleep in his attic rooms when he was alone in the mansion. Whether it's Governor Briggs in the attic or perhaps another entity, Tom Lee isn't the only one to have experienced activity there. Modern-day staffers are often hesitant to speak of their experiences in the attic. Perhaps they don't wish to irritate the unsettled spirit any more than they already have. Of course, it also piqued the interest of those in the paranormal, including author Lori Orser, who wrote the book Spooky North Dakota. In preparing for her book, she visited the mansion and was wandering around recording her thoughts on a voice recorder. While she had not intended for the recording to be any part of an investigation, she was rather shocked when she heard what she did when she went back to review her notes. At the moment she approached the stairs to the attic, they were roped off and closed to visitors. Lori was musing to herself about the closure, and her recorder caught a very clear, "Don't go up." A positive spin on this might be the spirit was just trying to be helpful to the staffers and didn't want any guests wandering up there. Given the skittish nature of the staffers when discussing the attic, however, it's more safe to believe that the spirit just wants to be left alone. So don't go in the attic, or else.
Alright, so for our next stop, we're going to move to our neighbor immediately to the south. We're going to North Carolina and its capital city of Raleigh. At the center of downtown in Burke Square stands the North Carolina Executive Mansion, or as it is often called, the Governor's Mansion. A beautiful Queen Anne-style home, construction on the building began in 1883 using materials that mostly originated in North Carolina. The lumber for the oak and pine frame came from across the state, the marble for the steps was mined in Cherokee County, and the sandstone trim originated in Anson County. The bricks that formed the mansion were also molded from North Carolina clay and made by prison labor. Many of the men whose forced labor helped build the mansion inscribed their name on these bricks, signatures which are still visible today. The mansion was completed in 1891, and the first governor to inhabit the building was Governor Daniel G. Fowle. Some say that Governor Fowle became so enamored with the residence that he decided to stay. Seems he could care less about the subsequent governors and the limits of mortality. The Daniel G. Fowle bedroom sits on the second floor of the building. Fowle was a widower with 4 children when he took office, and his youngest son had the habit of climbing into bed with him at night to sleep. Fowle, already a substantially proportioned man, found the original bed in the room to be too small to accommodate himself and his child. Not wishing to lose his focus on the affairs of state because of a lack of sleep, Fowle ordered the construction of an oversized bed that would allow him to comfort his son and get some sleep. Unfortunately, he didn't get to enjoy the bed for long. Fowle died before completing his term.
So,
Yeah.
I really want to know who the children went to. 'Cause
Yeah.
I could not find that.
It's really sad. Just
But-
want his dad.
Yeah, I think if I read it, I mean, it was very short. I think it was only 3 months.
Yeah, it was really short.
I think he took office and was passed away 3 months later. So very, very short term, tragically short. Now, a later inhabitant of the mansion found the bed that gave Fowle such comfort to be the source of a strange series of encounters. Governor Bob Scott, who served in the office from 1969 to 1973, spoke to North Carolina folklorist Richard Walzer about his experiences in the mansion for Walzer's book, North Carolina Legends. According to Governor Scott, he had chosen the Daniel G. Fowle room as his bedroom when he moved into the mansion. But Scott was considerably taller than Fowle, and he found the Governor Fowle's bed to be uncomfortable to sleep in. There just wasn't enough room for his feet.
It was this way, not this way.
Scott insisted on purchasing another North Carolina-made bed, this one from Crafty Furniture in Mebane. And being in an age of less extravagant government expenditures, he paid for it with his own money. He had the Governor Fowle bed moved out of the room. Shortly after moving the bed, Governor Scott and his wife were reading in bed when around 10 o'clock they heard a strange knocking coming from the wall behind them. Scott and his wife thought little of it, assuming that it was just water running through what were almost century-old pipes. But the next night the knocking returned at the same time, and the night after, and the night after that. Scott asked for the maintenance staff to see if something could be done about the pipes. He was surprised to discover that there were no pipes running behind that section of the wall. And even if there was no one running the water at that time, at the time that the knocking sound occurred. Governor Scott and his wife remained puzzled by the knocking until the day when Governor Fowle's daughter came calling. The late governor's elderly daughter had been living just down the street for many years, and it was her habit to pay a courtesy call on new governors when they took office. And according to Governor Scott, part of the social call involved her demanding an answer to the question, is father's bed still in his room?
Aww.
Did the late governor's daughter know that her father's spirit may still have been gliding around the mansion? Did she think that everyone, even a ghost, deserves a comfortable bed?
Absolutely.
Yeah. While insisting that he did not believe in ghosts, Governor Scott nevertheless confessed that he had named the knock, which occurred every night at 10 o'clock, as the ghost of Governor Fowle. The Scotts believed that this was the spirit of Governor Fowle communicating his displeasure at his bed being moved each night around 10 p.m. Despite this, Governor Scott refused to replace the original bed, so the knocking continued every evening until he left office. Upon his departure, Fowle's bed was replaced to the executive bedroom, and the knocking immediately ceased. That is until 1993, when Governor Jim Hunt claimed the knocking had returned, despite never changing anything in the room at all. He was quoted as saying, "I've heard him. I'm trying to establish contact with this ghost. I haven't done that yet."
Aww.
2 decades later, Governor McCrory is also on record saying he believes the ghost of Fowle is still there. He said, "He's a good ghost. I talk to him every night. I know he hears me. I don't get spooked. Other people do." The former governor commented that there had been discussions on literature, philosophy, and many other topics with Governor Fowle. It's possible Governor Fowle feels he still has some work to do at the mansion, or maybe he just enjoys being there with the other governors, especially when his daughter made it a point to come by and make sure his bed was still where it belonged in the house, and to see that his portrait was hanging amongst those of the other governors of North Carolina's past.
I mean, Washington still shows up in his room,
Yeah.
so why can't this governor show up in his room?
Like, politics aside, I've always found that governors are pretty neat to ghost.
Yeah, your mom's not reading in bed later tonight.
Sorry, Mom. So much for reading in bed later tonight.
We promise we won't knock on the walls up at the cottage at night.
No, we won't.
I'm not promising the cats won't.
I can't make any promises.
Alright, so we're going to jump down to Texas. Now, Texas had 2 stories, so this is just one of them. Because the palace isn't in this one, right?
Wait, what's
The
this?
Spanish palace is not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'm sorry. We're doing both Texas.
It was the second Georgia one that moved.
Ah, okay. Alright, so deep in the heart of Texas, we land in the capital city of Austin at the governor's mansion, which was constructed in 1854. It is the 4th oldest governor's residence in America that has been the home of every Texas governor since its opening. Prior to the construction of the Texas governor's mansion, there were no permanent residents established for the state's governor. In fact, the first 4 governors lived in boarding houses and hotels. In February of 1848, the Texas legislature authorized the use of public funds to annually lease the home for a governor. Just 6 years later, the legislature was called upon again. This time, they were to approve that the building of a designated home. Excuse me. Now, self-taught architect Abner Hugh Cook was awarded the job of supervising the building of the Greek Revival Mansion. In June of 1856, Elijah and Pease moved into Texas's first and only governor's mansion. In the year 1970, the governor's mansion was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and in 1974, the mansion became a U.S. National Historic Landmark and presents an environment that is ripe with history and some associated tales of the paranormal sort. Our first ghost, the Texas Scout. Now, a young scout of the Texas Rangers had fallen in love with a Comanche girl, and not everyone was keen on the young couple. Certainly not the girl's father, who was terrified the scout was stealing his daughter. Now, forced to keep their relationship secret, the young couple would sneak around on the grounds of the mansion together. This kept their affair well enough, until the girl's father caught them red-handed. Excuse me. He approached the scout in a fit of rage. Rumor is that he was so angry he killed his daughter's true love, and distraught, the girl stabbed herself in the heart. She was so unwilling to return to her father that she took her life above her beloved's body. The 2 spirits now sneak around the grounds together, much as they did in life. Spectres spot them, hand in hand, reunited forever in death. Little Romeo and Juliet for you there.
Quite.
Then we have the governor's nephew. Let's just say this is not quite so romantic. While Pendleton Moore was governor during the Civil War, the governor's nephew had come to the mansion for a visit. Coincidentally, the governor's wife had her niece staying at the property as well. The legend has it that the nephew fell instantly for the niece. The niece enjoyed the boy's attention, but that was it. She didn't feel anything back.
Yeah.
Didn't reciprocate. Anyway, astoundingly, he actually proposed to her the next day. He watched in devastation while she rejected his advance. His tragedy doesn't end there.
I know they moved fast back then, but wow.
That was really fast. Wow. Now, he, of course, went up to his room, and a gunshot was heard emanating from the upstairs later that night. A staff member who cautiously entered the boy's bedroom discovered his lifeless body laid out on the bed. The governor's nephew had committed suicide. Since his abrupt and tragic death, staff members have avoided the boy's bedroom. The boy's sobbing moans can be heard emanating from the room. Phantom footsteps pace around it when there is no one there. And in the years immediately following the boy's death, his moaning and wailings were so disturbing that the successor to Governor Moore, Governor Andrew Hamilton, sealed up the room with plaster to try to contain the noise. For decades after the room was sealed, a detailed manifest of the furniture and objects contained in the house always listed one ghost in the ominous bricked-up room. Do not open. Capitals underlined, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
It is kind of interesting. I mean, you know,
it's on the manifest.
It's on this manifest. You know, it is a government property. They keep track of every little trinket in the house,
and everything they do to the house.
Everything they do to the house, and on year after year, governor after governor, on the last page of the manifest, do not open.
Mm-hmm. So for a long series of governors, they heeded that. They didn't open it.
Until they did.
I mean, there's always going to be one.
There's always
Somebody decided to remodel in the 20th century, and as you can guess, the cries resumed, and they've been heard ever since. Those sensitive to the residual energies claim that he's most active on Sundays, which is actually the day of the week he took his life. And a lasting reminder of an obsession so fierce that over 150 years of Texas governors and their staffers have had to contend with it. On a related note, the specter of Governor Murr himself is said to stalk the mansion and the surrounding property. His tenure as governor was relatively short and extremely tumultuous. It would be fair to say that his flight to Mexico after the fall of the Confederacy and his subsequent death due to tuberculosis in August of 1865 might have left him with a wee bit of unfinished business.
Oh, he was a piece of work.
Yeah, he was.
Even after the fall of the Confederacy, after Lee surrendered, he gave a fiery speech to the citizens of Texas, encouraging them to continue to keep the fight up. Mm-hmm. But war-weary Texans said no thanks, and then the Union Army starts rolling into town, and he's like, "I'm out."
Yep. All right, so then we have Sam Houston. Chris likes this one. Do you want to read it?
Yes, I do actually.
He really likes
He
this one.
literally started clapping his hands.
I
You should have heard him when he's like, "I really like this guy."
I liked this one. So anyway, of course, the famous Sam Houston. Now, fun fact, Sam Houston, he actually is a native son of Virginia. He was born just out to the west of here in Rockbridge County in 1793 and only left when his family moved to the Tennessee frontier when he was a teenager. So he spent some of his youngest and most formative years here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
So there's some bias going on.
Well, maybe a little bit, but get this. So now, Houston's storied life saw him live with, advocate for, and become close to Native American tribes, particularly the Cherokee. He served as an officer in the War of 1812, as a senator and governor for the state of Tennessee, and as commander-in-chief of the Texas Army during the Texas Revolution. He also served as president of the Republic of Texas, oversaw the desired annexation of Texas into the Union in 1845, was one of the inaugural U.S. senators from the state of Texas, and fiercely advocated against secession from the Union as governor of Texas leading up to the Civil War. He was stripped of his office after the secession of Texas and later died in Huntsville in 1863. The man led an absolutely fascinating life, but it did end on a sour note with his beloved state of Texas standing apart from the United States. Now,
They're still trying to do that.
Yeah, beside the point. But anyways, now perhaps it is this sour note that has led Houston's spirit to linger on at his last government residence. A bit of unfinished business that has him keeping an eye on things since his passing. The bedroom that Sam Houston used in the Texas governor's mansion is visited by Houston's apparition to this day. On a fun little side note, in the 1980s, Governor Mark White returned to the mansion late one evening with his wife Linda. In the hallway outside their bedroom, Linda noticed that someone had left the light on above Governor Houston's portrait. Thinking little of it, she switched it off and went to bed with her husband. The following morning, she found the switch back on, Sam Houston's image fully illuminated once again. There should not have been anyone around to turn the light back on, and even if there was, why would they turn the light on over the portrait? Puzzled, Linda inquired amongst the staff and security, and none of them had any knowledge about who would have turned on the light or why. This was during the time when Texas was celebrating its sesquicentennial. Perhaps Sam Houston felt the need to remind the current residents of the governor's mansion of his pivotal role in cementing the existence of Texas as we know it today. So, yeah. He was...
Over here.
He was,
He is neat.
He is really neat. I mean, of course, everybody associates him with Texas. The city of Houston is named after him, the fourth largest metropolitan area in the United States.
I would not have made that connection. I would not have made that connection.
You didn't know that? No, yeah, it's named after Sam Houston. I mean,
it makes sense. I just wouldn't have made the connection myself.
So I mean, it's and that was, you want to talk about the
Yeah, he went down a rabbit hole with this one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I dug in and I could have gone on and on and on. Probably could have done a whole.
So you Ellen Glasgow.
Yeah. Oh, I probably could string together a whole episode on Sam Houston alone because he was.
Podcast.
Yeah. Not necessarily in the spooky sense, but he was just a fascinating historic figure. Of course, everybody associates him with Texas, justifiably so. But yeah, governor and senator of the state of Tennessee, born and raised in Virginia, and
Well, we could totally do a podcast on Virginia sons and daughters who have gone elsewhere and ended up haunting there.
Yeah, haunted elsewhere, made a name for themselves elsewhere. I mean,
I think we could just do a podcast on stuff that we go rabbit hunting down.
I mean, this whole next episode, that was a total rabbit hole that I went down. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these are haunted? Holy.
So, now we are not done with Texas yet, as we were kind of musing about.
Because remember, Texas didn't originally belong to us.
Oh, yeah, the history of
Spanish.
The history of Texas goes back way before the United States, before the Republic of Texas.
So they had a palace.
Yeah, so decades before Sam Houston was even born, there were the Spanish. Now, of course, there were the native tribes as well, but we're talking about the colonial era here, and it would be fair to say that the Spanish and the French in this era did not care for one another. Honestly, few of the colonial powers cared much for one another, as they were often competing for the same territory. Now, going back to 1718, King Philip V of Spain was worried about growing tensions between France and Spain in southwestern North America.
Valid.
The French in early Louisiana were slowly spreading west towards San Antonio in Texas. To protect the crown's land, King Philip V ordered the governor of...
You're going to butcher it.
Yeah, I am. Ordered the governor, Don Martin de Alarcon.
I would love to help, but I don't speak Spanish.
It's okay.
Don Martin. We're just going to go with Don Martin.
It works.
Yeah, Governor Don Martin. We'll go with that. So,
Don being a title.
Yeah. To build, he was ordered to build a mission in Presidio. I can do that. Presidio, Spanish word, it means a fortified settlement where the San Antonio River and the San Pedro Creek met. Don Martin followed the crown's orders and founded the Presidio San Antonio de Bahar to protect the newly erected Mission San Antonio de Valero, aka the Alamo. Yes, that Alamo. Yep. Now, by 1722, the Marquis de Aguejo had moved the fortified Presidio away from the original position a half-mile downriver, just across the San Antonio River from the Alamo itself. The Marquis had big plans for the Presidio. He dreamed of a large, square-shaped fortification with sharp bastions to ward off the enemy. To make it happen, the Marquis needed quality materials. Naturally, he wrote the King of Spain, asking for 25,000 adobe bricks to be sent over from the motherland. And then, because the bricks were obviously not enough, the Marquis also asked for 40 more laborers so the construction of the Presidio could begin. It seems that the Crown agreed. Don't get that very often, because soon after the necessary items were shipped over from Spain and construction began. Although the keystone above the entrance doors claims construction didn't finish until 1749, it's believed that the effective completion of the fortification had come sometimes earlier than that. The Comandancia, as it was known, functioned as the office and residence for the captain of the entire Presidio. By the 1760s, the Presidio was in charge of the defense for 5 of the local missions, as well as the Villa de San Fernando de Bahar, and it also supplied guards for the missions and for important dignitaries. The capital of Spanish Texas moved to San Antonio in 1773, and the Comandancia became home to a long string of Spanish captains. While the Presidio had once acted as a line of defense, at this time it also became a place where justice was served. In the courtyard behind the main building, approximately 35 people were hanged for their crimes. The site was one of bloodshed and battle, where the captains protected the villa against raiding Native American tribes. The last captain to live at the Presidio was Jose Manchea, and he sold the property to Ignacio Perez, a prominent merchant and landowner, in 1804. Perez paid 800 pesos for the property, which equaled approximately $55,000 at that time. Big money. Perez's family continued to own the property until the 1860s throughout the Texas Revolution and the subsequent annexation to the United States. After the 1860s, the Perez descendants began to lease the old Presidio out. One of the first to acquire the property was E. Herman Altgett, who happened to be the founder of the village of Comfort, Texas. He lived at the Presidio with his wife, Emma, and even after Altgett passed, his widow continued to make the old fortification home until the early 1900s. By then, the property had fallen into disrepair. Different businesses utilized the Presidio's various rooms for commercial purposes. It began as a tavern that sold nickel beer, a produce market, a tailor shop, a pawn shop, a school, and a clothier. It was during this period that rumors of ghosts at the Presidio began to spread. Maybe it was the appearance of an ancient building falling apart, losing its pride and beauty, that ignited the rumors of ghostly activity about town. This continued into the early 1900s when a local preservationist, Adina Amelia de Zavala, helped return the Presidio to its former glory. In 1915, de Zavala pointed out that the old stone building across the street from City Hall was more than just a decrepit eyesore. Rather, it was the remains of one of the oldest and most important structures in the state. So important that she then began to call the Presidio the Spanish Governor's Palace, even though the building was certainly not palatial and it had never been home to one of the Spanish governors. So, admittedly, we're kind of cheating on this one. But that's
It's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. Now, in 1928, the city of San Antonio acquired the Spanish Governor's Palace, and a movement to restore a piece of the city's history and heritage commenced. Since 1931, the Spanish Governor's Palace has functioned as a museum of Spanish colonial history, and it was listed on Texas Historic Landmark in 1962, and less than 10 years later, in 1970, it was named a National Historic Landmark. Pick it up right there.
Despite its renovation and subsequent enshrinement as a museum and national landmark, the Spanish Governor's Palace was never able to shake the spooky reputation it had developed when it was a worn relic. Since the days when the building was leased to a variety of businesses, reports of paranormal activity have been attached to the property. Apparitions of Native American peoples standing by the outer walls have been spotted, but also too have translucent figures of the Spanish colonials. Those who wander near or stand near the property itself often feel inexplicable chills wash over them, even on the warmest of days. Ghostly air conditioning. Perhaps one of the most haunted parts of the Spanish Governor's Palace is the old original patio at the rear of the building. Here you can find the Tree of Sorrows. At the time when the Presidio functioned as a San Antonio's main quarters for justice, it is the alleged Tree of Sorrows where at least 35 of these criminals were hanged for their crimes. Whether true or false, there are some who claim that the marks from the tightened rope can still be seen on the bark of the branches. Some visitors of the Spanish Governor's Palace have claimed to see the figures of the condemned swaying below the branches of the tree, as if they are doomed to repeat their final moment time and time again. For those who haven't seen the figures themselves, some who have had the opportunity to linger about the property after dark have claimed to see colorful orbs floating about, lighting up the tree with an ethereal glow. Then there are the children. Spectral children have been spotted in the governor's palace, the first being a little girl who makes her presence known in one of the bedrooms. It's uncertain who she is, but visitors of the museum have commented that they have felt incredibly cold upon entering that bedroom, and the young girl is, of course, said to haunt there. Even though those unaware of the story remark that they feel as though they've been watched the entire time they are in the room, and for the most part, she stays quarantined in this room. She hasn't been sensed elsewhere. The ghost of another young girl has been spotted by the well in the courtyard. Legend has it that she was related to one of the prior governors who visited the Presidio, but upon wandering into the courtyard, the curiosity got the best of the little girl and she stepped too close to the well. You can guess what happened. Trailing her fingers along the brick, she...
Sorry. That was uncalled for. That was inappropriate.
That was very much inappropriate. That's the dipped and folly.
That's the dipped and folly, guys.
It's strong.
It gets you.
Anyway, she gripped the sides of the brick and she leaned over to peer down into the dark depths of the water source. Her body wobbled on the precipice of the well, and gravity proved too much. Down she went, falling to her death, and her body was soon recovered. And the legend that strains believed, it said that she was interred in the wall surrounding the well itself.
That's really creepy too, though. Like, why would you do that?
I took objection.
That.
I took issue with that. Keep reading.
All right.
Well,
That
okay.
last bit is likely a dramatic myth, as burying corpses near your water source is a bad practice. Her spirit is at least said to haunt the area. People have reported seeing a young dark-haired girl sitting on the wall of the well weeping. Is it possible the apparition is that of this girl who mistakenly fell in the well? Or maybe she's someone else still. Another tale is rooted in the darkness of the night. A group of robbers had waited until the captain's family had left the property on a trip. They barged through the doors, collecting every valuable item that they could find along the way. Gold, silver. They dropped the objects into their bags, continuing to look for more. While the subsequent details have been lost to history, the local lore says that when robbers entered the courtyard, they found that they were not as alone as they thought. A young woman was there, the governess to the captain's children, or perhaps a housemaid. We're not entirely sure. The robbers panicked at the thought of being identified, and they attacked and outnumbered the woman. She was jerked on the ground, her wrists and ankles bound, and helpless they threw her down the well. Whether she drowned or if the fall killed her, it matters not. Her death would not have been uncovered if it was not for one of the robbers experiencing complete remorse about what he had done. He came forward and confessed his crime. His fate and the fate of his co-conspirators is uncertain, but it most likely involves a length of rope similar to the one used to bind the woman before she was mercilessly cast down the well. I gotta say, that well should have been redug several times by now. Bodies.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it at some point...
Bodies.
At some point, it just became ornamentation. I mean, I'm sure that they wound up getting put on municipal water at some point.
Dead bodies in your water source. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, you know, like protein.
Oh, God. I was thinking it, but I'm like, no, I've already said one thing in bad taste. Look.
I was just thinking dysentery.
Oh, God. We're going to hell.
Well, you know, we already knew that.
I'm driving the bus. Or the boat, actually. I'm taking over Karen's job. Alright. Present day custodian of the palace has heard all sorts of things about the well in the courtyard. Gurgling, water bubbling up as if there are just a few during that times that he has gone down to the well to collect coins tossed in by the tourists. He has felt extremely uneasy, to say the least. Is the young girl weeping in the well a servant, or is she the daughter of one of the former captains? Either, both can be true, both exceedingly tragic. And then there's the gray lady.
Ah, there's always a gray lady.
Because we gotta have a lady in some color.
There's always it's a lady in black, a lady in white, or in this case, the gray lady.
Occasionally it's a lady in red, but
Sometimes it's a lady in brown.
They wrote a song.
and green.
Lady
There's
in white.
never a lady in pink.
Yeah,
Actually, there's a girl in pink in Memphis. We're gonna get there.
Oh, how about that? You lied to me.
Sorry, I just researched that one.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, moving on. It's not a lady, it's a girl.
Well,
She is spotted at the governor's palace and is believed to be a one-time visitor to the Spanish captains. Legend says she arrived unannounced and mysteriously died on the night she arrived. Her identity remains a mystery, but people have spotted her apparition peeking out of the windows of the governor's palace, watching people go about their business for many years. So she's a people watcher. And yes, I saw that our podcast needs to be called Down the Rabbit Hole.
I really love that. I'm sure it exists, but I love it.
Is it going to be the first one from the Richmond Haunts Media?
Yes.
The first subsidiary of Richmond
the
Haunts
show
Media?
just needs to be called Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's featured on Richmond Haunts Media.
And we just...
Do we have Richmond Haunts Media?
We do have
Yep.
it set up, and
Oh.
when pandemic hit,
We've had it for like 3 years.
yeah.
And
we-
haven't done much of anything with it.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. We have our reasons. it is what it is. We won't get
We
into
will
it.
get there.
Well, we've been all of these Facebook live shows. They're all cross-posted to Richmond Haunts Media on Facebook. There is a page for it. It has like 7 whole followers.
You don't advertise.
No, I know,
anyway.
because we're really not ready to actually get it completely up and running.
Yeah,
The
but
people-
eventually there will be a podcast there. That is the
eventually.
plan.
The people that are following it right now apparently just randomly stumbled upon it somehow. So, good on them. But yeah.
Yeah,
You hear that, Patrick?
he might be one of the followers. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. But yes.
yeah, but there are plans there. But let's finish this
Yes. We digress.
It's
because
dipped
we're
in
at
folly.
9:14. So
We're not 14 and we've been drinking. And we got a lot to go.
It's a dipped in folly, guys.
it
Yeah,
is
it's
the
a bit
dipped in
fun.
color.
All right, so moving on from Texas, we are going to drop into Georgia. As a state, Georgia has had a few governor's mansions over the years, and for the purpose of our discussion, we'll be visiting the one in Milledgeville that was completed in 1839. Now, I did not know this. It figures that Atlanta wasn't always the capital of Georgia.
I knew that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I did not know that it was originally this town, Milledgeville.
That I did not know.
I did not know that either. But anyways, so this mansion in Milledgeville was completed back in 1839. A fine example of high Greek Revival architecture, it looms over Milledgeville with its stately columns and imposing facade. Serving as the residence for Georgia's chief executives for over 30 years, the mansion's years of service encompasses the antebellum, Civil War, and early Reconstruction phases of the state's history. During the Civil War, the mansion was claimed as a prize in the March to the Sea when General Sherman headquartered in the building on November 23, 1864. Following the war, Georgia's seat of government was relocated to Atlanta, and the mansion was abandoned. Given over to Georgia Normal and Industrial College in 1889, the mansion served as the founding building of the institution now known as the Georgia College and State University. Beginning in the late 1990s, an initiative was begun to return the mansion to its antebellum splendor. Following years of intensive historical, structural, and material research, as well as years of painstaking restoration, Georgia's old governor's mansion reverted to its original magnificent state. Today it serves as a historic house museum whose mission is to care for, collect, interpret, and exhibit items that illustrate the history of the site and its inhabitants during the years the mansion was the official residence of Georgia's governors. Georgia's old governor's mansion was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1973 and is an accredited museum of the American Alliance of Museums. In 2015, the mansion was named an affiliate of the Smithsonian Institution.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, kudos to them. Now, aside from its well-earned historic accolades, the mansion was believed to be the home of a resident spirit only known as Molly. The ghost is believed to have been a cook for the mansion and was famous for baking. While touring the home, guests may sense the smell of fresh-baked blueberry muffins in the morning, despite that there is no such baking that takes place in the house anymore. Molly was a cook who worked throughout her life baking at the mansion and was especially famous for those blueberry muffins. In her afterlife, Molly appears to still be preparing meals for guests at the mansion today. Her skills don't stop at breakfast. Visitors claim that at noon and again at precisely 5 p.m., the smells of pork and black-eyed peas can fill the air. During October of 1994, the recently exhumed remains of a Confederate captain lay in state for 2 days during the living history at the museum, or at the mansion, Throughout this somber occasion, the comings and goings of visitors were in great number. When the ceremonies were complete and the crowds had left, staff smelt burning potatoes throughout the lower level. The aroma was so strong that the fire department was called in and feared that the wires had been too hot and caught fire after the extensive use over the last 2 days. The firemen found nothing of concern, but agreed that it did in fact smell of burned potatoes. Seems Molly had been too busy preparing for large crowds that she forgot about her potatoes and accidentally let them burn. Once, while staff were collaborating in the kitchen, they heard the door to their offices open and close. The door is kept locked to keep visitors to the home out of the office space. After the door seemed to close itself, the surprise continued with the sound of footsteps running down the hall. The staff immediately searched the home, but never found anyone else in the property. In 1994, a Georgia college student had helped cater an elegant dinner at the mansion. When the meal was over, she was mopping the ballroom floor when a lovely woman startled her so much that she dropped her mop. The woman, who dressed in a dark day dress without a hoop from the woman was dressed in a dark day dress without a hoop from the 19th century. She stood there for several seconds, smiled at the student, and nodded her head as if in approval before fading away.
So that person got Molly's approval for whatever she was doing with the mop.
Yep.
So we don't get blueberry muffins from the ghost? It just smells like it?
Apparently.
It's really upsetting.
It is kind of.
Yeah, because if I smell that, I'm going to want to eat it. As Patrick said, I like potatoes.
Do I need to pick up blueberry muffins at Costco?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say no to croissants.
You always get croissants.
I know, but I was going to make banana nut muffins. Because we have bananas that need
This
to
just sounds like stuff that's all happening when I'm not in town, and it just
But
makes
you would
me
like
sad.
blueberry muffins, wouldn't you? Yes, you can get blueberry muffins.
Dipped in folly. Anyway.
I might be getting munchies.
We have cheesecake.
Oh, are you looking at me?
Would you like cheesecake?
I'm not going to say no to cheesecake.
I know what we're having after we wrap up here.
Alright.
Last story.
Last story. We're in New York City.
Seriously, it is the last story,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
but yes.
We were good.
But this is one I thought was really unique, and this is the one, as we mentioned, does not stand anymore. So we're taking you to colonial era in New York City, and rather what it actually started as New Netherlands, as the last Dutch Director General, Peter Stuyvesant. This was the title Director General was roughly the equivalent of what we consider governor. During his life, Stuyvesant had himself a couple of nicknames such as Peg Leg Peter, Old Silver Nails. These are for the silver-studded wooden peg leg that he wore after losing his leg in fighting of the Spanish for the Dutch West India Company in 1644. Now, after returning to the Netherlands to heal, Stuyvesant was selected by the company to go to New Netherland, arriving in the colony in 1647. He arrived seeking to right the floundering colony. Any horse set to work to do what he believed to be God's work. He settled into the home designated as the residence for the Director General, known as the Great Bowery. It was effectively an executive mansion for the colony. Now, for Stuyvesant, the home was not sufficient for the purposes of the man in charge of the colony, and he subsequently built a new executive mansion near the center of the colony around 1657. During his time as Director General, Stuyvesant negotiated the purchase of the Great Bowery from the company and giving it the lasting name Stuyvesant Farm. Despite his best efforts, maintaining the colony proved impossible. The lack of military support, apathetic colonists, the pressures from surrounding colonies forced Stuyvesant to relinquish control to the English in 1664. When the English moved in, they dubbed the executive mansion that Stuyvesant built Whitehall. Despite surrendering the colony, Stuyvesant and the other Dutch colonists were allowed to stay if they wanted with full civil rights. Stuyvesant ultimately did retire to the farm that he had purchased from the Dutch West India Company. But he seems to never have quite let go of the executive mansion that he had built for the colony. He passed away in 1672 at the age of 80, and his body was laid to rest in a private chapel at his estate. His spirit, however, started to make appearance at the executive mansion that he had built, starting almost immediately after he passed away. Housemates and workers reported to seeing the peg-legged ghost hobbling around the property time and again, at least until the mansion burned in 1744. On that day, Stuyvesant was seen wandering the ruins, sadly assessing the damage. Despite the loss of the mansion, Stuyvesant wasn't quite ready to let go of the mortal realm. By 1799, Stuyvesant's descendants had donated the estate, including the private chapel, to the Episcopalian Church. They subsequently built St. Mark's Church on Stuyvesant's private chapel, and almost immediately people started to hear the distinct sound of a person with a peg leg ambling up and down the aisles of the church. sometimes seeing his apparition to accompany the noise. He would sometimes add a dramatic flair to his appearance. In 1865, a sexton was scared out of his wits when Stuyvesant appeared in the church and hobbled toward him. Upon hearing the sound and determining it was Stuyvesant's ghost, the sexton bolted, screaming into the night as his pursuer hobbled closer. Later that night, the bell at St. Mark's started to toll. Concerned parishioners rushed to the church only to find it locked. When the members of the congregation finally opened the door, the ringing stopped. Only a small piece of rope was hanging from the bell, and no one could come close enough to reaching the tattered end of the rope. The congregation fanned out to search for the church from steeple to cellar in search of who could have rung the bell. They found nothing, except the rest of the torn bell rope on Stuyvesant's crypt. That was. In 1953, the last direct descendant of Stuyvesant was buried in the family crypt at St. Mark's, and the vault was sealed. People hoped that Stuyvesant's spirit would finally come to an eternal rest. Then Jacques Stuyvesant, the last descendant, gave instructions that a concrete should be poured inside the vault to permanently seal it. Some of the mourners claimed that they heard tapping sounds of the peg leg during the entombment of his last male descendant. Apparently, the end of the line has not meant the end of Stuyvesant's ghostly activity. In one final appearance on Christmas Day of 1995, the congregation was finishing their morning prayers when they heard the raucous singing in the reception room. They rushed to observe a figure in a Dutch period clothing with a wooden leg disappearing into the walls. There was only one entrance to the room and no possibility of escape. The bowl of holiday punch that was awaiting the congregation was clearly down an inch.
Somebody got deep into their cups.
Somebody would enjoy dipped in falling.
So, yes, now, that was, we definitely kind of went a little further afield because we focused more on the governor.
Yes.
He certainly haunted the governor's residence after his
Yes.
passing, but
It was just fun.
it was just fun, and I think I've said it before. It's our show, so
Yeah.
we're,
I was like, let's just throw an oddball one in here. This is fun. So we did.
we did. Yeah. Unfortunately, that governor's mansion has long since. Well, I mean, it burned down, so
Yeah.
there was that.
But the church is there.
Yes. Yeah.
You could go
Saint-
see the church.
St. Mark's, good old church, literally old church.
Yeah. But yeah, so 2 weeks from now we're going to be doing Haunted Executive Mansions Part 2.
And between now and then, we do have that haunted dinner, which is going to be about haunted executive mansions. And it's, again, we got so much material to work with. Yeah, we will probably touch on some of what we talked about tonight, but we got a lot more to go with. So, yeah, if I don't know what it is. For some reason, this month is Executive Mansion Month for us.
Because it's presidential weekend month.
There you
So
go.
executive mansions.
So, but yeah,
And since we've already done the White House, I decided we were going to do governor mansions.
although, yeah, the White House will be talked about on our executive mansions because it is an executive mansion.
Yes.
But yeah, so my mother came up with the idea, the spectral rabbit hole.
But are we going to keep it to ghosts or are we going to keep it everything?
We'll discuss off camera. I mean, if it's spooky stuff, the spectral rabbit hole.
Yes,
I love it.
we can have one each.
We're nerds.
We're yes, we are
We're
nerds.
nerds who like to talk about stuff.
Proudly.
Proudly wearing the nerd badge right there.
Ah.
All right, but yeah, we will see you all in 2 weeks for the executive mansions, and again, come out for our haunted dinner. That is
February 18th.
Yes.
Saturday, February 18th.
and it is limited space. So
Very limited space. So, yep, the format is just a touch different than what we've done in the past, but hey, we've had 3 years to think about it, and we think that we've made a couple of improvements. So
Yep.
it's going to be a good time. We're looking forward to being there. Our friends at Patrick Henry's are looking forward to having us back, and yeah, awesomeness.
yes,
So, but let's see. It may be nice to leave your options open to veer away from spectral things. Veer away from spectral things. Yes. Yeah. So, but
Well, if there's anyone in Alaska Comic Con, Fairbanks, Alaska, is on the 25th to the 26th.
Ooh.
It'll be a really good time. Lots of comic dudes. It's mostly just comics, but, you know,
It's
something to do if you're in Fairbanks, Alaska in February.
It's an excuse to go to Fairbanks, Alaska in February.
This is true. Oh, no, I'm going next year.
Good. We might have to block off some time in our schedule, too.
Yeah.
Alaska's beautiful.
It is. We really want to get back.
Yeah. That cruise really whetted the appetite that we took this past summer. So, and yes, I know it gets very cold there in the winter.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in New York, so I know it gets cold.
Yeah.
And there's yes. Alex wants to know, will there be an Ireland episode in March?
No.
We're not doing Ireland this year? We've done Ireland every year.
I might have to readjust.
So.
As I have it right now, no, but I can readjust. What do I have?
From what I understand, you are planned very far out. I think you have some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now I have North Dakota and Nevada for March, but we can...
Nah, you should stick some Ireland in there.
Yeah.
We can move Nevada and switch that up to
Push
Ireland.
everything back a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'll
definitely don't move North Dakota. They get overlooked enough.
Yeah, I'll move Nevada to May.
Good deal. But yeah, we've done. You might. It's not our place burning down, I promise. But
remember, we're friends with the fire department. Who are right
Show
around
must
the
go
corner.
on.
yes, our lovely neighbors at the fire department are just about to go by from the sounds of it. So bear with that for a moment. But yeah, we've done in March, 3 years running now, 2020, 2021, 2022. We've done an episode on Haunted Ireland.
So.
As a matter of fact, that was the very first Facebook Live that we ever did because we had no clue what we were doing.
So is this Ireland Part 4?
This would be Ireland Part 4, but if you go back and check the archives, you might be hard-pressed to dig up Ireland 1. Remember that we did that on our phone. And so we did it in like portrait profile and all that. It was
terrible.
It was terrible. But we had no clue what we were doing. So
It was fun.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
we
we certainly had fun doing it. I mean, we also had nothing else to do at that point in time because
We were bored.
the virus, which we shall
not name.
Anyways, but yeah, so
Flag.
yeah, we granted we still really still don't know what we're doing. I mean, we just kind of wing it and sit here and drink and tell stories and
Make inappropriate jokes.
sometimes make inappropriate jokes. I sincerely apologize.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes.
Was that an attempt at a cross?
No,
Or a salute. It was.
It was more of an acknowledgement to somebody that I hope is at rest up above.
At the very least, laughing.
Yes.
Okay, I've adjusted on my schedule. I just need to adjust on the printed schedules.
Oh, there
Good
you
deal.
go.
So yes, Alex, we will do a Haunted Ireland. I will get going on that script.
Just for you.
Thank you, Alex.
So that will be on March 20th.
You best be there, Alex.
March 20th. So
March 20th.
right after St. Patrick's Day and before the Churchill Irish Festival.
Yep.
So
Which is on the same weekend as GalaxyCon.
it is again, second year in a row.
That is a lot.
It is,
It's going to be a very busy weekend.
we will
Hopefully be extremely busy.
hopefully yes. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Fingers
We
crossed
still got
for us. Just do fingers crossed for us.
we won't get into it yet because things still are possibly shaking out, but could be good things coming. But yeah, anyways, now we're kind of rambling a little bit.
So now it's time to say bye-bye.
Yep,
Bye.
We'll go ahead. We'll wrap things up for this evening. Thank you all again for watching us again as we sat here and drank something a little on the stronger side than usual. So.
Yeah, dipped in volley, y'all. Over at Rich Brow. We like Rich Brow.
Yeah.
Or is it off the tap now?
It's probably off tap now.
That's really sad, guys. You missed out.
It'll be back in like 10 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their Christmas brew, and
Well, they
we
didn't
just.
do it for Christmas this year. They did it for New Year's.
I thought it was out before Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but maybe they advertised it after.
I could be wrong.
Anyway.
Anyways,
Moving on.
yeah, moving on. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. You can come catch us at the Haunted Dinner at Patrick Henry's on February 18th, and
Tours.
tours. We
Tour
got
weekend.
we got stuff going on. So, as always, feel free to drop us a note anytime. Happy to hear from y'all. And yes, thank you. My Sabres jersey. I do like this. Yes.
You like sports?
Our friends at the Graveyard Geeks.
Oh, hey guys.
Hey. But yes, so and I do apologize because we could have had them on when we did The Witches Part 2. I didn't realize until I got into editing the script though that it was basically entirely about witch graves.
Yeah.
So
We'll just have to do another cemeteries episode.
and I edited that at the last minute. So there will be more cemeteries.
Oh, yeah.
There's always more cemeteries. So with that, as always, feel free to drop us a note anytime. We will be diving into cheesecake shortly. And
Because I made cheesecake.
thank you all for watching. And have a good night, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
This is a very long outro.
I can